A desert planet with twin suns.
Why do I sense we've picked up another pathetic life form?
Use my knowledge. Much to learn. You still have.
Welcome back to Twin Sun Talks, folks. I'm your host, Jonah Liu. Thank you so much for listening, and welcome to Volume 7 of our species profiles. We are by no means in the realm of prominence anymore, because we're going through Parwans, Iktachi, Bith, Chiss, Kaleesh, and Feline, and I would say that we see one major character of each of these species in maybe the entirety of canon. We see some background characters, but I still think that they're cool and they're worth knowing about. So without further ado, let's dive into ARC Trooper training.
Gentlemen, who wants to be an ARC Trooper? I do, sir!
So like I said, this is Volume 7 of our species profiles, so if you want to catch up on the other ones, then they are all in a playlist on my YouTube channel, Twin Sun Talks Podcast, or you can just go ahead and search through them in any of the podcast feeds, wherever you get your podcasts. They're all there, and if you want visual representations of these species, then you can go to my website, twinsuntalks.wixsite.com/twin-sun to kind of be able to visualize them a bit easier. But the first species that I have to talk about today are Parwans. And so Parwans, if you haven't watched the Clone Wars, then you probably wouldn't know what they were. They're native to the planet of Parwa. They speak Basic or Parwan, and they have either blue, brown, or gray skin. They have 3 eyes and 4 tentacles in place of like bipedal legs like humans would have, and mushroom-shaped heads. And they are able to levitate off the ground by filling themselves up with gas. Certain blood types of the species could safely be injected with electrolytic serums in order to withstand ray shields. And what ray shields were essentially these energy barriers that were, if not fatal, then extremely dangerous to touch. And we see in the Clone Wars during the Bounty Hunter arc that there's a Parwan bounty hunter who's able to use electrolytic serum to make his way with resistance through ray-shielded boundaries. And that Parwan is one of the 2 members that I have listed as Daron, who's a really cool bounty hunter, really cool character. Would love to see him in live action someday, but I'm guessing Parwans would be pretty difficult to pull off in anywhere except for animation. The other member of the species that we see in canon is Dr. Gubacher, who is the doctor or the scientist who provides all of the enhancements for D Squad, the droid squad led by Colonel Meeber Gascon, in that one arc of the Clone Wars. So he's also a Parwan, and apparently there's a Parwan Jedi in the High Republic era, but I don't know about him. So I didn't add him here. Next up, we have Iktachi. They are native to the planet of Iktach. They speak either Basic or Iktachese. They have leathery orange tan skin, and they are characterized by 2 ram-like cranial horns that curve down on either side of their face. And they were said to have precognitive tendencies. Now, this notion is mainly found in legends, but that it can be seen in both the Darth Bane trilogy as well as the Darth Plagueis novel, where there's like a truth-sayer who's an Iktachi who's force sensitive, who Darth Plagueis seeks out as an apprentice and ultimately passes on. And in the Darth Bane trilogy, there is an assassin who is extremely proficient in her craft because of her kind of sort of precognitive capabilities. And she is actually one who I am going to be talking about in the members category. But the first one that I want to talk about is CC10. And now CC10 is a character that I talked about in last week's episode where I was talking about kind of background Jedi of the Clone Wars era. He is one of the 4 Jedi that went with Mace Windu to arrest Chancellor Palpatine. He was the second to die. He's the one with the green lightsaber and the horns on his head. He's a very good star pilot. Really cool character, and we got to see a little more of him in the Clone Wars, which I enjoyed. But I wouldn't mind seeing a little more of him in a future project, but I'm assuming that since they seem to be kind of moving away from the Clone Wars, that's probably not going to be the case. And the other character is Darth Kongus, who is the Itachi assassin that I was talking about from the Darth Bane novels, who ends up being Darth Xana's apprentice after she overthrows Darth Bane and ascends to Master under the rule of 2. So, with that said, moving on to our third species for this edition, we have Bith. And get ready. So the species name is Bith. They are native to Bith, and they speak Bith. They're very creative in their naming processes for their whatever. I don't even know. I had a thought, and then it just went away, so I'm just going to power through. Anyways, and also, this is Bith. I don't know if it's hard for me to hear. It's a Bith. I don't have a lisp. It's just like, that's what it is. They have large, hairless heads, yellow skin, and glossy, lidless eyes. They are known for great intelligence. They are very science and math-oriented. They were commonly employed as musicians, scientists, and engineers. And members of the species include the Cantina Band from A New Hope, and we also see a lot of them employed in other bars and dives playing in bands like we do in the Clone Wars movie and also in the Book of Boba Fett. They are very commonly seen in those kinds of settings, but they another member of the species is Darth Tenebrous, who was Darth Plagueis' master, Darth Plagueis being Darth Sidious's master. And he was extremely intelligent, very science-oriented, tried to create a pathogen that would sever Jedi's connection to the Force. He's wild, very intelligent. So, yeah, Bith are pretty cool, and I don't know. That's about all that I have to say. Chiss. Now, I'm about to mispronounce a lot of words here. So the Chiss were native to Sicilla, Csilla. They spoke either Broken Basic or Cheun, so Cheunh. But they were also known to speak or understand a language called Cybisti, which was an Outer Rim, unknown region sort of dialect, which we see Eli Vanto speaking to Grand Admiral Thrawn in the Thrawn books. They have a human complexion with blue skin, red eyes, and glossy black hair, and they were often mistaken for Pantorans because they were very, very uncommon in the galaxy proper. They were often regarded as myths and legends as they kept primarily to the unknown regions of the galaxy. And Force sensitives of their species tended to be females, and they were extremely rare and acted as navigators known as Skywalkers, which was an interesting thing that Anakin Skywalker ended up encountering during the days of the Clone Wars. Their society had great emphasis on family and loyalty, and members of this species include Grand Admiral Thrawn, which is his Chiss name is Mithranuroto. I think that's how you pronounce it. But it's the Chiss are really interesting, and it seems like they're setting up something really cool with Thrawn moving forward, potentially in the Ahsoka show. And they're doing a lot with the Thrawn novels, so I wouldn't be surprised if we learn more about the Chiss in canon pretty soon. Next up, we have Kaleesh. They are native to the wild space world of Kalee, and they are capable of speaking Basic. It's unclear whether or not they had a more unique language to their species and their society. They had red skin and yellow eyes with tusks along their chins, and they were very brutal and militant. They wore traditional masks made of bones, and they fought against the Republic-backed Yamri of Huck before the Clone Wars. And members of the species include, of course, General Grievous, who was a Kaleesh general who fought against the Jedi and against the Republic. He was a very renowned warrior who, it's unclear how he came to be in the service of Count Dooku in canon, but in Legends, Dooku and Sidious essentially staged an explosion aboard Grievous's ship, which left him extremely wounded and in need of cybernetic enhancement, and blamed it on the Jedi, which caused great resentment and hatred towards the Jedi in Grievous. So, kind of cool. I mean, I guess. I don't know. I'd be interested to see like a Grievous show or something like that, so we got to learn a little bit more. I think that would be a really awesome thing. But who knows? I would be surprised if something like that came to be. The last species that I have to talk about is the Feline. So they were native to Feline and speak Basic as well as Feline. Once again, extremely creative with the naming system that they have going. They were a reptomammalian species with green skin and rigid skulls who produced powerful pheromones used to attract mates. The Black Sun crime syndicate was run by a group of Feline nobles during the Clone Wars era. The Black Sun were some of the gangsters who joined Maul's Shadow Collective during the Clone Wars. And the Black Sun was known for transporting slaves and other illegal activities such as that stationed on Ord Mantell. And members of the species include Zidon Moj, who took over after Maul and Savage killed all of the Feline nobles who were in charge of the Black Sun at the time. And there's also a character in Legends named Zizor, who's a Feline. I don't really remember much about him, but he definitely exists in Legends. So that's about all that I have for this episode, but it wouldn't be a proper episode if I didn't leave you with just a little bit more. Alright, so Parwans were actually capable of living extremely long lifespans, with at least one recorded to have lived beyond 1,000 years of age. So very similar to Yoda's species, where they have extremely long lifespans. And I'm pretty sure I remember reading that Parwans actually went into periodic hibernation based on the seasons of their homeworld lasting centuries long, something of that nature. Even if they were off-world, they would go into this kind of induced hibernative state based on these long cycles of seasons on their home planet of Parwa. So kind of cool there. That's about all that I have. Yeah, thank you so much for listening. And if you haven't already checked it out, I released a special edition of The Ability to Speak Does Not Make You Intelligent last week, commemorating 1 year of Twin Sun Talks, which happened last week on the 23rd of March. So, very exciting stuff there. Go check that out if you haven't already. That's about all that I have for this episode. You've taken your first steps into a larger world. May the Force be with you, and I will see y'all in the next episode. Bye, friends.